Hey everyone, Dash Attack here. How's it going? You've all heard the Xbox news.
Everybody, can we just stop wasting staples?
Things are not good in the gaming industry right now. It seems like we're seeing a complete implosion. Here you have Arcane's CEO. Hot on the heels of the layoffs that have swept through Xbox, the founder of Microsoft's own Arcane Studios has hit out at Game Pass, where a subscription model he called unsustainable, who founded Dishonored and Prey developer and served as president before leaving in 2017 to start Weird West maker Wolf Eyes Studios, took to social media to ask why is no one talking about the elephant in the room, cough cough, Game Pass. When asked to expand on his thoughts on Game Pass, which Weird West launched straight into as a day one title in March 2022, Carlos said, I think Game Pass is an unsustainable model that has been increasingly damaging the industry for a decade, subsidized by Microsoft's infinite money. But at some point, reality has to hit. I don't think GP can coexist with other models. They'll either kill everyone else or give up. Michael Doe's publishing director at Baldur's Gate 3 developer Larian said that the biggest concern right now revolves around what happens when all the money runs out. This, Douse added, is one of the main economic reasons people I know haven't shifted to its business model. The infinite money thing never made any sense. It's worth noting that Baldur's Gate 3 so far has not launched in Game Pass or PlayStation Plus. So yeah, Xbox is on its way to just becoming a publisher of games and have pretty much kept themselves out of the. They got themselves kicked out of the console market, essentially. But going on to the Sony side, the former Sony president was talking about the doubling of prices between games from PS4 to PS5 and how this has slowed down like production. So this generation, PS5 generation, I think it's the first time that the industry really truly believes that, there has to be something that has to be done. Who says that PS5 games are too expensive to develop?
Yeah, you think?
Comment says, help Astrobot, you're our only hope. Yeah, you need more games like this. And that's why, the main topic of this video is why I think Nintendo is just going to win the console war, essentially, even with all the controversy the Switch 2 has brought. Nintendo is actually going to try and lower costs of their games by cutting back development costs, which I hope means they'll cut this whole $80 bullshit. Nintendo has a plan to tackle the rising costs of video game development and potentially start making select titles more quickly. The company's leadership said, however, details on the matter are currently slim, and the only thing that's certain is that this mysterious plan won't be applicable to all future Nintendo games. The length of game development cycles has historically grown in stages until mid-1990s. What was considered to be a big budget game was typically completed within 1 or 2 years. As with the Elder Scrolls Arena, the transition from 2D to 3D graphics in the late 1990s extended typical development time to around 3 years. The PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 generation marked the first era in which AAA games regularly took more than 3 years to complete, sometimes up to 5. Today, a 5-year development cycle is considered the minimum for most AAA games, with few exceptions such as FromSoft games that rely heavily on reused assets. During a recent Q&A with shareholders, Nintendo President Shirotaro Furukawa fielded a question about this state of affairs, framed as big picture concerns that the Switch 2's significant greater power compared to its predecessor could lead to higher game development costs, increasing software prices, and ultimately, counterintuitively, a decrease in gaming population. The executive confirmed that Nintendo is currently making the necessary investments for more effective development, thus reiterating a pledge he made around this time last year. However, provided a bit more detail on the matter, more than is typical for a shareholder Q&A. We also believe it is possible to develop a game software with shorter development periods that still offer consumers a sense of novelty, Mora said as he labeled the train of thought as one potential solution to the rising video game development costs and software prices, stating that Nintendo will explore it from various angles within the company. The executives did not elaborate any further, though the statement itself suggests a potential solution will only be applicable to some projects. Nintendo could be returning to AA games as the transition from 2D to 3D and 3D to HD graphics demonstrate assist creation has long been one of the biggest bottlenecks in game development. The higher the visual fidelity, the longer AAA games where consumers' expectations are higher take to produce. Programmatic comments could therefore be interpreted as a hint that Nintendo may shift more focus on AA titles in the future. Until the mid-2000s, the company regularly invested in several such franchises, including Excitebike, Box Boy, and Pushmo. AA games declined in popularity among major publishers for reasons similar to that of having lengthy AAA development cycles, increased asset requirements, greater technology complexities, and larger teams are harder to coordinate. These factors drove up costs, making smaller projects less economically attractive and pushing publishers to prioritize fewer, larger-scale bets. If Nintendo is indeed considering AA projects as one potential solution to current development challenges, it may also be rethinking how such games can be produced more effectively than in the past. And I feel like they're the only company doing this right now. They're the only company considering on downscaling, making something like less, lowering costs, because really, like, the affordability of games is the biggest problem right now. People want games that are worth playing, but they also want games that are affordable. And these other companies, they're not doing that. They're not producing as many games as they used to. Meanwhile, like, Nintendo has all their franchises, all their stuff on their console. And honestly, I think the Switch 1 is still going to have a pretty long life cycle, even despite its age. I think they're still going to be making Switch 1 games, and that's going to also lower costs. Which is interesting, because I originally thought they were going to try and kill the Switch 1 as quickly as possible, and ideally I feel like that's what they want to do, but I don't think that's going to happen, especially with this whole thing with the physical media. If physical games are only going to be available on Switch 1, then more people are going to get Switch 1 copies of games. The gaming landscape is just rapidly changing, and no one knows exactly where it's all headed. We can only hope that we can have a future that's best for the players. Anyways, thank you all for watching this video. I'm Dash Attack, and I'll see you next time.